What's up, everybody? Clint here from the Die Hard MMA podcast, brought to you by Pub Sports Radio, and the lines here are brought to you by the Superbook Sports. This is the undefeated post-weigh-in show. I apologize for being a little bit late, as previously mentioned. Not our usual week this week, folks, so buckle up. We're going to do our post-weigh-in show here a little bit late today, but we got to get through this bad boy. I'll be honest. Not a lot to talk about today. Today may have set record time for like the first 90% of the card to be weighed in. Everybody was ready to go. Everybody was on point. And the first, I want to say like 8 to 10 fighters were done within 15 minutes. I mean, they just went boom, 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 boom. Like it was so easy to get through the first start of the card here today. Starting off with Tafon Nchukwi taking on Azamat Moutinho. We've got both guys coming in at 205.5, and boy, Tafon, he's one of these guys. He's just bricked up. This dude is huge. He gave a big flex, very stoic on the scales today. Azamat came in, nothing special. He's a bit doughy. You know, he's one of those guys, not overly impressive in the physique area, but God, that hides his power. When they face off, Tafon is huge, you guys. He looks like he's a full weight class larger than this man, and that's something that I just can't get out of my head. This is a Dana White Contender Series fade spot. This is the exact spot that we try to look for. A guy who's coming off the Contender Series, who's super hot, who's super sought after. Everybody loves the guy, and he's stepping into the UFC to make his debut, and his opponent has fought mid or low tier competition in the UFC, but they're acclimated. They've been up at this level before. They've seen what it takes to win at this level, and that's when you get the letdown from the undefeated lower end fighter that is trying to break in. And Tafon is that guy. He's a plus 160 underdog. You've got minus 180 per Superbook on Azamat Moutinho. And I am extremely tempted on that underdog money right now. This is a spot where it's a little weird to me how close, how spread that line is right now. They're giving you a solid price on Azamat, the favorite, and then the underdog price tag on Tafon at plus 160. Nobody's picking Tafon this week. Absolutely nobody's picking Tafon this week. And I think his size advantage, his reach in this spot, and I think if he wants to just do the old grind him up against the cage type of thing, he can grind minutes off the clock and stay away from that crazy power. And on top of that, Tafon's really a solid guy. He's never been hurt. He's never been rocked. Like, he's not a dude that we think of when he gets hurt and he gets wobbled. The big thing that concerns me is the speed. The speed of Azamat is really where that comes into play because his power is off the charts. So if he can get to Tafon, we might see Tafon on skates this Saturday. But plus 160, I am so tempted. I think this is, a pick-em price tag or maybe even a little bit disrespectful of Tafon because of, the competition that he's fought to this point, simply because of the power of Azamat. I know that's the great equalizer. I know it doesn't matter if you're better than somebody. If they pop you one and you go down, that's all it takes. But damn, I'm really tempted on Tafon. I've been looking at it all week. I talked about it Monday. The line is getting better because everyone's piling in on Azamat. I might jump in before tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Haven't bet it yet, but the line keeps getting juicier. I might have to. Next up, Guido Canetti taking on Chris Moutinho. Canetti came in at 136, gave a solid flex, looked good on the scales today. Chris Moutinho came in at 135, and he walked very gingerly to the scales. He got up there, and he gave kind of a half-hearted flex, and he tried to get off immediately. Like, that boy did not look good on the scales today. He looked like he wanted out of there, if I'm being completely honest. When they face off, dude, Moutinho's big. He's so big, and he had like a whole half head taller than Canetti. I was actually a little tempted to take the dog shot on Guido Canetti here. Based off of how bad Moutinho looked on the scale, I think it's already a bit of a sketchy fight to have someone like Moutinho be as big of a favorite as he is right now stepping into the UFC. Minus 150 on Chris Moutinho, plus 130 on Guido Canetti. I think we might have a live dog on our hands, but instead of taking the shot on the 42-year-old, who I have no confidence in whatsoever because Chris had potentially a bad cut, maybe I'll look more towards violence. I talked about it on the Total Takedown. I think this is kind of an underweighting to happen. The size discrepancy between these guys. I think Chris being a bully, coming forward, constantly getting in Guido's face, I think it'll gas him out. I think he can hurt him. I think he can rock him, especially when Guido gasses or slows down. He can get finished later. Chris Moutinho looked bad on the scales. He's been finished before. If Guido hits him with the right head kick coming in, this thing could be over. So I think instead of picking a side, we look to the total. I'm looking at the under 2.5. Again, another one that I haven't bet, but if I was going to make a play on this fight, that is where I would be looking. It seems almost like a dog or pass on both sides here to me. I don't want any part of the over. I don't want any part of Chris Moutinho. This is where betting is stupid. I kind of think Chris Moutinho wins, but I don't get how you lay minus 150 on him right now. We haven't seen him at this level. We haven't seen him proven. The only people he's beaten have been much lower level than someone like Guido Canetti. It makes no sense. It just makes no sense. If you're betting on Chris Moutinho because you think he wins, more power to you. I hope you cash the bet. I can't justify minus 150 on the kid. Next up, we've got Cody Brundage taking on Dalcha Lungiambula. Brundage came in at 185.5, Dalcha 186. Brundage has a solid frame, looked good up there. Dalcha is jacked. We have talked about this guy before. He used to fight at 205, came down to 185 and is massive. He put one thick, juicy arm up over his head when he made weight. These guys size up extremely well. Slight size advantage for Brundage. And if I'm being honest, Dalcha Lungiambula won this stare down, folks. Like, they got up there. Dalcha was crazy eyes, unblinking, in his face. And Brundage kind of shrinked away. You could see him gulp a couple times. You see him fidget a little bit. And then as soon as he had the opportunity to leave the stage, he bolted. He was out of there. He wanted nothing to do with the mean mug of Dalcha Lungiambula. This is a spot where I've said all week, I feel like Cody Brundage has the wrestling advantage. I think he can take someone like Dalcha down. He can grind on him. He can wear on him. And I think he can probably win this fight via decision or by submission once he gets Dalcha on the mat. But God, after that kind of a stare down, I'm not confident in the kid at all. Like, don't get me wrong. You can't, figure skill to something like a face-off. But what you can figure is the emotional attachment, the connection, the intensity, the heart. And Brundage looked like he wanted out of there. It makes it very hard to put my money on a guy like Cody Brundage when he's acting like that at the face-offs. I don't have enough experience with the kid. Maybe he's like John Jones where he never meets his opponent in the eye and it's just something that he can't quite do or handle. But Dalcha won the stare down. I'll give him that much. This is a tight fight. Dalcha is a guy that I've backed in the past. Just like Chris Moutinho, I can't really justify minus 130 on Dalcha Lungiambula. I feel like I've sold Cody Brundage short a little bit. What he did to Will Knight at 205. I feel like he can absolutely do that to Dalcha Lungiambula here in this spot. So again, I kind of like the dog here at plus 110, but a very sketchy fight, and I'm a little weirded out by what happened at the face-offs today, so I don't think I'm going to be getting involved in this spot after all. Sabina Mazo taking on Miranda Maverick. Both women came in at 125.5. Sabina very excited, happy, had her arms up after getting weight called. Miranda Maverick solid, no issues whatsoever, relaxed. We know she's a brick shithouse. Mazo is so tall. Like, holy crap, she is so tall. This was a good face-off. It was an intense face-off. Both women are very confident in themselves right now. But Sabina Mazo is like 3 heads taller than Miranda Maverick. It's insane. Now, that may help the grappling of someone like Miranda Maverick. But, hey, you've also got that pogo leg stick defense that we see from these super tall fighters sometimes that just don't want to go down. They can get a leg down and force the fight standing. I've already got a bet here on Sabina Mazo. I did get plus 270, I think, earlier in the week. Just a 1-unit shot. Guys, I think Miranda Maverick is way overblown. Like, I'm sorry. I know she's everyone's darling. I can hear your fingers going on your keyboards right now already from me saying that. She's a future prospect. She has an upside. She's just not there yet for me. She's just not there yet. I think she's good. I think she's going to get better. But I think as of right now, there's no way I can justify laying minus 350 on her. And I think Sabina Mazo, she's getting the same thing that we had last week with the women's MMA. People don't know where to rate her. They see one fight and they go, oh, she's minus 400. And the next fight, oh, she sucks. She's plus 280. Like, they just don't know where she is. And the truth is she's somewhere in the middle. I think this fight's going to be more competitive than people give it credit for. 1-unit shot, big dog. Let's go. Come on, Sabina Mazo. Do it for me, girl. Damon Jackson taking on Kamuela Kirk. Jackson came in at 145.5. Kirk came in at 145 on the dot. Damon Jackson gave a hard flex and wobbled. I don't know if he flexed himself out a little bit but he looked like he was off balance after he was trying to, show off on the scales a little bit. A guy that we kind of worry about his durability to begin with. Not sure if that's a bad cut. Maybe I'm reading a little too close into that, but I don't think he looked great on the scales today, if I'm being honest. Kamuela Kirk, solid flex. Came in with his hat on, so no issues making weight or anything like that. Looked great. Pounded his chest. He's ready to go. This was an intense stare down. I mean, Damon Jackson's one of these guys that brings the fire in every single one of his fights. So you know it's going to be fun, scrambly, big time fight. I got Kamuela Kirk here. I think I laid minus 115 on him, and it's been all Damon Jackson money coming in. I kind of thought I was getting a buy low opportunity here on Kirk. I thought eventually it would swing back the other way. Now it's minus 115 Damon Jackson. You can get Kirk at minus 105. So if you want to roll with me on Kirk, you can get a slightly better line. I did do 2.3 units to win 2 on this one. I just don't see how Damon Jackson gets this to the ground. If it's on the ground, I understand Damon Jackson can sub anybody. Kirk is a guy who's super good on the ground too, though. So I don't know that Damon Jackson is going to be the better man on the mat. I think Kirk has some serious upside in the grappling. So if it's kind of a 50-50 fight on the ground, on the feet, however, in the wrestling department, however, it's clearly Kamuela Kirk. He is a much better striker than Damon Jackson. He's much more athletic than Damon Jackson. And like I said, just the better technical wrestler, the better technical striker. So I think it's a buy low opportunity on the guy that does have all the upside. The low volume of Kirk does make me a little bit nervous, but I do think he'll be hitting the harder, cleaner shots, and we know the judges rate those. You know the guy who gets rocked with impact is the one who's losing, even if he's outlanding his opponent 3-1. That's just the way it's been. That's just the way how judges look at it. So even if Kamuela Kirk is slightly lower on the volume side, I think those bigger, harder shots are going to make up the difference. And if he can keep this thing standing, he probably wins an easy 15-minute decision. And if it hits the floor, someone's getting choked out. Not sure who. Next fight up, JJ Aldrich taking on, I'm sorry, almost missed one there. I missed one last week. I'm not doing that again. Sorry about that, guys. I got all my notes typed up here, and I just skipped over one. The next fight up is Trevin 5-star Jones taking on Javid Basharat. We've got Jones coming in at 135, Javid 136. Jones looked defiant on the scales today, folks. I mean, like chin up in the air, crazy eyes coming down. Like, he does not look like a guy. He's coming in with a chip off his shoulder. I'll tell you that much. He has a point to prove. Pounded his chest. Looked good. Looked solid. Javid gave a good solid flex on the scale. Dude looks mean. I mean, Javid, he's a fighter. Like, I like this guy. Even though I'm betting against Javid today, he's a guy that I like a lot and will be betting on a lot moving forward. Like, he just looks angry up there. He looks like he's ready to kill somebody. That's what you want going into the cage. Now, when they face off here, Javid has a slight size advantage, something that, kind of shakes me just a little bit here. But this was a good, intense face-off. This is another spot where it's the Dana White Contender Series fade, folks. Plus 130 on Trevin Jones. Javid is a minus 150 favorite at this point. I have Trevin Jones in my pocket, just one unit. Trevin's a guy who I think has massive upside, and because he's being disrespected by the Contender Series fighter coming in favored here, I have to take the dog shot. It's not one that I'm like so super confident on or anything like that. I'm playing the angle, and because it's an angle that has been successful and I've had success with, it's a must in this kind of spot, especially when I trust the fighter that's the one who is the underdog, who's the established fighter in the UFC. So gotta do it. Gotta play it. I'm looking for opportunities to back Trevin Jones. I think that last fight was a little bit of a fluke. We'll see just how good Javid is come Saturday. JJ Aldrich taking on Gillian Robertson. Both women came in at 125.5. Both women did the one-arm flex up on the scales. Gillian's was a little bit more impressive, if I do say so myself. Business as usual for JJ. She is not the most, physically imposing fighter. Gillian looked solid up there, gave a big, wide smile. Gotta love to see that. JJ's slightly bigger. This is a spot where I kind of thought they would match up extremely well. I thought that maybe Gillian would have a slight size advantage. I was wrong. This was backwards. I'm a little nervous, if I'm being honest, because there has been a slight steady movement of JJ Aldrich money coming in, and Gillian can be had for minus 125, plus 105 on JJ Aldrich. I paid minus 135 on Gillian Robertson, and this, again, it's a spot where I like to credit myself on getting the best of the line. I do that a lot. This one's been moving against me all week, and I laid the hammer on it, so I'm a little bit nervous. I trust the skill set of Gillian Robertson. I really do. And I think JJ Aldrich is getting a little overblown as far as what she's done, what she's capable of doing. She really hasn't fought anybody in the UFC so far. Her wins are people who are not in the organization anymore, or they don't look very good in the past. And the fact that she was able to bully somebody who was a weight class below her and not get, out-grappled or submitted by that person, people think she'll be able to stuff Gillian Robertson. I don't agree. Now, maybe she's made improvements. I guess she's training with Miranda Maverick, so there's always the chance that she's going to show improvements in that area and just be too much for Gillian to get to the floor. But I think whoever wins this fight looks minus 500. Like, if JJ can keep it standing, Gillian probably really is in trouble if it plays out on the feet. But if it goes to the mat, then JJ Aldrich is going to be a fish out of water. JJ absolutely is going to maul her if she gets it on the mat. I did also play a half unit Gillian by TKO at plus 700. She loves that ground and pound, baby. She works those elbows. She is looking for a TKO finish. Her opponents just roll over and tend to give up the neck a little sooner than anything else. So I'm going to play for the value spot there. Big bet on Gillian Robertson. Very nervous. Palms are sweaty. Let's get it. Matt Semelsberger taking on AJ Fletcher. Semelsberger came in 169. Fletcher 170 on the dot. And Matt Semelsberger is hairy like animal. He had his whole hair thing up, Wolverine beard flying out at different directions. Dude looks crazy on the scale. I love it. Physically looked fantastic. AJ Fletcher, he's got the T-Rex arms. Gave that short, stocky flex they do when they just have so much muscle they can't hardly get their arms above their shoulders. No issues from either guy. Matt is way taller, and I know that's something everyone's going to look at here, is that Matt Semelsberger is so much larger than AJ Fletcher, but this is one of those spots kind of like Miranda Maverick I talked about earlier. The shorter guy has a quicker path to the hips, so it all comes down to if you've got that peg leg defense for the takedowns or not, because if you can't kick that leg out and keep yourself on the feet, your reach don't matter if you're on your back. So I do have a 1 unit shot here on the new kid AJ Fletcher, and I know a lot of people are like, Clint, but the Contender Series fade, what are you doing? He's a big underdog, folks. It's not the same. The Contender Series fighter has to be the favorite for the fade angle to apply. This is not that angle because he's a big plus 200 underdog. So I did put a unit on AJ Fletcher. Now he's about plus 175, minus 200 on Matt Semelsberger. I kind of get it if you guys want to play Semelsberger. I totally understand the dude's power is for real, but we've also seen him put on his back before and play jiu-jitsu from down there. If AJ Fletcher can avoid the bomb, if the dude's got any sort of chin whatsoever, I simply think he out-wrestles Matt Semelsberger in this fight, and I kind of think the over 1.5 is in play, and that's kind of the same thought process. You don't need AJ to win. It's minus 130 if it goes over. Not a bad look in my opinion. Bruno Silva taking on Alex Pereira, the fight everybody wants to see. Bruno came in at 185.5. Pereira came in at 186. Silva did the heart hands thing, the Mario Yamasaki, big smile, looked good, no problems. And Pereira looked huge. This dude's in great shape, gave a great flex. Holy crap, when they face off, I mean, Alex is like almost a full head taller, half a head or so taller than Bruno Silva. This was a good, solid stare down, but jeez, this man is terrifying. He's intense, he is scary, he is tall, he is long. Like, I've been looking at this spot all week, and I thought I was going to bet Bruno Silva. I talked about how he understands the assignment. Pereira's going to get exposed by somebody who can wrestle, who can grapple, who can really take him down. I don't know if Bruno's that guy. I know he's been working on it. I know he's trained it. He put the post up on his Instagram that he's been chasing, ankles and takedowns, and I just am so nervous to step in front of Alex Pereira. You know the UFC wants this man to take on Israel Adesanya. It seems like a fight where if Bruno Silva doesn't get Pereira down early and he doesn't finish him early, then this becomes a kickboxing match. I know Bruno's got power, but you don't kickbox with Alex Pereira. So I think violence is on the table for this one. Total set at 1.5. The under is juiced all the way to minus 155. That's a bit too much juice for my liking personally, but there's a very good chance this thing doesn't get past the first round. So I kind of like violence. I'm going to say Alex Pereira wins. I don't think I'm going to get suckered into betting on Bruno Silva, and I know there's a lot of people I respect betting on Bruno Silva. There's a lot of people I really respect, and I thought I was going to be one of them. I can't quite get myself there. I think part of it also is because I've already locked in a lot of other bets on this card. I don't need to bet every single underdog on the card, and that's damn near close to what I'm doing. So I think I'm just going to kind of pass on this one, take a look-see, maybe bet on violence and see where we go, but I kind of think Alex Pereira passes another test on Saturday, and it's going to take somebody who's going to match his size, physicality, and have a legitimate wrestling background to go ahead and take advantage of his inexperience in that area. Drew Dober taking on Terrence McKinney. Dober is 155. McKinney came in at 156. And Dober looks sucked out. Holy crap. You know, the guy's got a chin. He's got some of the finest features the UFC has to offer, and you could see every single one of them because, wow, it takes everything he's got to get down to 155. But he gave a big smile, big flex. Dude is massive up there. He's got so much muscle on him. He's fine. Terrence McKinney, he sprinted to the scale today. Dude is feeling himself. He's one of these guys who's athletic. Build is great for the division. Doesn't cut a ton of weight. He looked good up there. Terrence is taller. Drew is thicker. Awkward handshake where Terrence tried to go for like a friendly buddy handshake and Drew just did not see it coming. It was pretty funny. This is another spot where everybody's piling in on Terrence McKinney, and I almost feel like this is a fade the public, take the favorite type of spot. Drew Dober's sitting at minus 165. Terrence is plus 145. I feel like I'm stabbing him in the back going against him after I cashed a 9-1 sub prop, but let's be real. I was looking at Faraz Ziam, saying I think Faraz Ziam is the better of the two fighters. Faraz is the guy that I kind of want to bet on, and then I found that egregious prop bet that was a crazy wild number. Thankfully it hit, but I wasn't looking to back Terrence McKinney from a straight side perspective. How can I do that now on short notice? A step up in competition against a guy in Drew Dober who is proven at this point. Like, I think this is a show me spot for Terrence McKinney. Like, if you really believe Terrence McKinney is the goods, then you go ahead and back him here in this spot. But I don't know if he's got more than 5 minutes of gas out there. And we've seen better wrestlers and better men try to take down Drew Dober and sub him out. It doesn't get done in the first round. So if he goes in there and he's not quite on his P's and Q's, if he misses just one thing, Drew Dober's going to flatline this kid. So I haven't bet it yet. I know the love is coming in on Terrence. I kind of want to buy in on Drew at this point. But again, it's another spot where like I feel like I should just go Terrence McKinney by sub back to back and be like, hey, we're free rolling, baby. You know, we got the 9-1 last time. Let's just hit it again. I don't know if it happens really though, if I'm being honest. So I think Drew Dober wins on this one. I haven't bet it yet. We'll see if I get there. Khalil Roundtree taking on Carl Robertson. Roundtree came in at 205. Robertson came in at 203. We know Roundtree was a former 185er, moved up, changed his body around, looks great at 205. Robertson doing the same thing, but just moving up now. So coming in at 203, a little smaller, a little slimmer. Roundtree has abs bigger than my biceps. Holy crap, this man is absolutely stacked. No amusement on his face today. He looked angry on the scales. And the last time we got angry dialed in Khalil Roundtree, he murdered a man in the cage. So something to think about. Carl Robertson, big happy goofball smile on his face, no issues, looked fine up there. They size up really well, except that Khalil Roundtree is about twice as thick as Carl Robertson is. Like, the back on this guy is holy crap. I mean, Robertson was having fun trying to talk to Khalil. We know Khalil's kind of one of these anxiety guys. He has a hard time, so maybe he was just focused in, but then the other alternative is that he is dialed in and he was like really ready to murder somebody. So it's a fight that I haven't really enjoyed all week. I've talked about how I don't like betting fighters who are 1 foot in the grave. Khalil's talked about retirement multiple times, so I don't really want to get behind him here in this spot. But at the same time, I don't understand how Carl Robertson can get iced by everybody down at 185, move up to 205, and all of a sudden he's just the betting darling of the week. He's a minus 130 favorite. He opened up the dog, so it's just been steady Robertson money. The plus 115 on Khalil Roundtree looks a little enticing at this point. The violence bet looks a little enticing too. The under 2.5 minus 150 price tag here. You know, if Robertson decides to go to the ground, we've seen that gas out Khalil before. We think Robertson's got a bit of a grappling advantage here in this spot, but that's where he gets his ass kicked every single time. So I don't know if he's even going to go to that. If he decides he wants to kickbox with a guy like Khalil, we know the Muay Thai of this guy. We know he can beat the legs to hell on people. I don't know that I want to get in front of Khalil Roundtree in this spot, and I definitely don't want to lay minus 130 to do it. So I'm passing here at this point, but I think I'm switching my pick. I think I'm going to end up going with Khalil Roundtree. It's one of those weird pick'em fights that I haven't had a good read on all week, so I really don't want to get involved financially at this point when I'm not at all confident in it. Next fight up, Alex Caceres taking on Sodiq Youssef. Caceres came in at 145, Youssef 145.5. Caceres jogged onto the scale today. Big smile, great shape. Dude is always shredded up. Looks good, no problems. Sadiq Youssef, same thing. Looks good, no issues. He's a little more stoic up there, a little bit more intense. These guys actually size up pretty well. Alex is obviously a little bit taller. Youssef is obviously a little thicker. It's not quite to the degree that I envisioned in my head, though. I thought Alex was going to be significantly taller, and I thought that Sadiq was going to be significantly thicker. They're kind of more comparable than I expected. Another spot where, Alex Caceres, a plus 215 underdog, he's coming as the dog twice in a row, back to back, and I just can't get this guy right. So, I want to kind of stay away from this one, but I don't know how Sadiq Youssef loses this fight. I really don't. As a minus 250 favorite, I don't know how he loses this fight. Alex Caceres doesn't hit hard enough to knock out Youssef. I think somebody's going to knock out Youssef here in the near future, but it's not going to be a guy like Caceres. Does Caceres submit Sadiq Youssef? I don't know if Sadiq provides the openings that Caceres needs to get on his back the way he did in his last fight. Does Alex Caceres out-grapple Sadiq Youssef? No, I don't think he's going to have to run and point fight, but we're in the small cage, so if Sadiq Youssef wants to get in front of him and cut him off, he can and will. Can Alex Caceres back up Sadiq Youssef with his power? Maybe with a knee like that. I mean, not really, not with his hands. I don't know. Guys, I think this is kind of Sadiq Youssef all day, but again, I have just been so wrong on Bruce Leroy the last 3 years that I'm having such a hard time pulling the trigger, putting any money on the other side of him. I do think Alex Caceres is durable enough to hang in there, so maybe it's Youssef by decision or something like that, but I'll say Sadiq wins, but I have no bet here in this spot. Magic Marlon Moraes in the co-main event, taking on Song Yadong. We've got Moraes coming in at 136. Song came in at 135.5. And Moraes, we know, folks, is thick. Jacked as ever. No issues on the scale today. That's never been his problem. Song Yadong looks solid, confident, no issues there. Great stare down. I mean, Marlon Moraes coming in, he's somehow found confidence in himself after his run that he has been on recently. Looking a little crazy there. Song unfazed, had his arms crossed, staring him down, no blinking. Song is slightly bigger than Marlon Moraes, which, makes me feel just a little bit better about it. I've got Song Yadong in a big parlay with someone in the main event. You probably already know about it, but I'm on the favorite here in this spot. You get plus 220 on Marlon Moraes, minus 260 on Song Yadong. I think this can be a gunfight, and I mean, that's terrifying because Marlon Moraes mostly kills people in gunfights, but Song Yadong is a kid that's just getting better. He's got good power, he's got good durability, he's got wrestling in his back pocket, gas for days, and that's the one thing Marlon Moraes doesn't have. His durability at this point, little questionable. His gas tank, very questionable. If it gets out of the first round, he's not the same guy. Now, if there's any grappling involved at all, Marlon Moraes is dead in the water. So I hope Song Yadong goes out there, uses his takedowns and wrestles. Even if he doesn't, I still think that he can win this fight, but that just seems like the easiest, clearest path to victory for me is to gas your opponent out and then just be the fresher man later in the fight because this guy's going down that way. Marlon Moraes is always live in that first round, folks. I'm already sweating this fight right now because there is no telling. Marlon Moraes can head kick somebody into oblivion easily. Every fight. He almost did it to freaking the machine, Vachvili, in his last fight. So, this parlay could go down in flames in round one, is what I'm saying. So be careful. You've got a puncher's chance on Marlon Moraes, absolutely. But I also think his days are done. I think that this is a UFC where they're trying to get a win over him to put that rub on a young contender that's headed towards the title. Got to ride with Song here in this spot. Main event time, Thiago Santos taking on Magomed Ankalaev. We've got Santos making 205.5, Magomed 205 on the dot. And Santos first to the scale today, unamused. Just on all business on the scales today. No issues with him whatsoever. Magomed Ankalaev looked great, confident, solid flex. This guy is built really well for the division. Magomed obviously larger when they face off. He's a real 205er. Santos used to play around at 185 before he finally got too big and bumped up. Thiago Santos, kind of like Khalil Roundtree earlier in the evening, got a back on him. The dude is big. That's where all that power comes from. This was a respectful but intense face-off. Should be one hell of a fight. Magomed Ankalaev closes out the parlay I've got with Song Yadong. He was, I think, minus 400 earlier in the week when I made that parlay. He's minus 600 now. Thiago Santos is plus 450. Total set at 3.5. I kind of think the over is maybe a little in play just because of the way Magomed kind of coasts his way to wins. I think there's a chance that he plays with his food with Thiago Santos, doesn't really go for the kill. So that over is there, but again, this is a spot where the younger, more powerful guy, I do think it's Magomed, and I think if he mixes in the wrestling, there's also the chance that he could just kind of ground and pound his way to a victory against an older Thiago who's kind of a bit of a shell of himself. So if he wants to finish, that under is absolutely in play. But that all comes down to the game plan. When I don't know the fighter's game, when I don't know the fighter's angle, it makes it really hard to bet a total like that because he could do either. And it will make perfect sense in hindsight. You're rolling the dice guessing. I'm not going to play the total in the main event for something like that. So Magomed Ankalaev in a parlay for me. This is another card where you've got such a big favorite on the main card portion of it, the main event. You've got a big underdog who's realistically live with finishes, good submissions, good knockout power. You can hedge everything you want in this spot. You know, if you've got the opportunity, if you're a parlay person, build them up, anchor them on Magomed Ankalaev, hedge out on Thiago Santos to guarantee a small profit, something like that. This is the perfect kind of card to do that. That is the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show, folks. Make sure you follow right here on YouTube. Give me a follow over at Die Hard MMA Pod, where I'll be locking in and tweeting all of my official action and bets. Check out Superbook Sports. They are awesome. That's where all these lines are coming to you from. And good luck on all your degenerate action tomorrow, UFC Vegas 50. Let's roll.